All right, so today we're diving into this NextGov FCW article, and it's about potential job cuts at the General Services Administration.
Oh, yeah, I saw that one.
Yeah, have you had a chance to look it over?
Yeah, definitely seems like a lot to unpack there.
Yeah, there's a lot of layers to it,
Mm.
and we're going to try to get through all of them. So
Yeah.
the article's about these potential job cuts at GSA,
Mm.
and specifically it's targeting their tech branch,
Right, TTS.
TTS Technology Transformation Services.
Mhm.
And this isn't, just a story about numbers on a spreadsheet. This could really impact how the government develops tech, like their whole approach to it.
Yeah, it definitely could. And, it's not just about the tech itself, it's about the people who are actually doing the work.
Are the people on the ground making these projects happen?
Exactly. And what's really concerning is that these cuts seem to be focused on a very specific group.
Yeah, it seems like they're going after tech employees, a lot of whom are relatively new to TTS.
Yeah, the article mentioned at least 100 employees could be let go.
Wow, so not a small number. And the way they're going about it is raising some serious red flags.
Yeah, I was reading about that.
The article quotes multiple sources within GSA, and they claim that supervisors weren't even consulted about who was being let go.
Really?
Yeah, like they had no say in it.
So it's just coming from way up top?
It sounds like it. And there's been very little communication from the agency.
About what's happening or why it's happening.
Exactly.
Yeah.
What's the rationale behind all of this?
Right. It's just creating this cloud of uncertainty.
Totally. And some employees are even comparing it to that whole the fork email thing from a while back.
Oh, wow. Bringing back some memories there.
Yeah, not good ones though, right? Like it
Yeah.
really highlights this lack of respect and transparency.
That lack of communication is definitely a problem. It's causing a lot of anxiety among GSA employees.
Of course.
And, when you look at the bigger picture, this situation at GSA seems to be part of a larger trend with the new administration.
Yeah, the push to shrink the federal workforce.
Exactly. Especially in areas like tech.
Which brings us to Elon Musk and DOGE.
Right, the Department of Government Efficiency.
They've been really advocating for using more technology and automation to streamline government processes.
Yeah, make it all more efficient.
Right, which sounds great in theory,
Mm-hmm.
but how does that actually work when you're cutting the very workforce responsible for implementing those solutions?
Yeah, that's the big question, isn't it?
Like, it seems kind of counterintuitive.
It really does. On one hand, you have DOGE pushing for this tech-driven efficiency. But on the other hand, you're cutting the people who are supposed to make that vision a reality.
Right, it's like you're trying to build a high-tech skyscraper.
And then firing the construction crew.
Exactly. Just
Yeah.
doesn't add up. And speaking of things not adding up, the article points out that a lot of the people targeted for dismissal are women and people of color.
Oh, really?
Yeah, according to sources within GSA.
So it's not just about experience or lack thereof.
It seems like there's something else going on here. And some of the people being let go aren't even new to government work. They might have just switched agencies or moved to a different position within GSA.
So it's not about weeding out inexperienced hires then.
Right. There's
Yeah.
definitely more to this story than meets the eye.
For sure. And I think one of the biggest concerns is the potential impact on all these government services that millions of Americans rely on.
Yeah, the article mentioned things like the IRS's online filing system
Right.
and those text notifications for public benefits.
It's all run by GSA's tech team.
Exactly. So what happens to those services if the people who keep them running are suddenly gone?
Yeah, that's a huge question. What happens if the online system for filing your taxes just crashes during tax season?
Because there aren't enough people to maintain it.
Exactly. That's just one example of how these cuts could affect everyday Americans.
And it's not just hypothetical future projects either. This is about real-world implications for people's lives right now. And the article quotes several GSA employees who are really worried about this.
Yeah, what are they saying?
They're saying things like, these cuts will ultimately hurt the American people, and this will create dysfunction within the agency.
Wow, strong words.
Yeah, but they underscore how serious this situation is. These employees feel like their expertise is not valued.
Right, like they're not being heard.
Exactly.
Right.
And that combined with all this uncertainty about their jobs, it's creating a very tense work environment.
Definitely not the kind of environment that encourages innovation and progress.
Which is ironic considering what DOGE is trying to achieve.
Yeah, it's a complicated situation for sure.
It really is. But I think it's crucial to remember the human side of all of this. The anxieties and concerns of the people who are actually affected by these decisions.
Absolutely. It's easy to get caught up in the abstract ideas of government efficiency and all that.
Right.
But we can't forget that there are real people behind those ideas, people who are dedicated to serving the public.
So we've laid out the initial facts and concerns surrounding these potential cuts at GSA. Now let's dig a little deeper into what the consequences of these actions could be.
Sounds good. Let's get into it.
We'll explore how this could affect government projects and services. We'll examine DOGE's role in all of this, and we'll consider the larger political context at play.
Definitely a lot to unpack there. I'm interested to see where this goes.
Me too. Let's dive in.
You know, this whole situation really brings up a question about expertise,
Yeah.
especially in a field like tech. Like, things are constantly changing.
Mm-hmm.
Can you really automate everything?
Right.
Or do you actually need, like, skilled people?
People who know what they're doing.
Yeah, with experience to navigate all these complexities.
And especially in government.
Exactly.
It's not like the private sector.
Right.
Well, I mean, there are parallels, but it's a
Right.
different beast.
For sure.
Elon Musk and DOGE, they seem to be putting a lot of faith in AI and automation as the solution to, like, all of government's problems.
Yeah, like it's a magic bullet.
Right? And in fact, Musk just posted yesterday on social media about how tech modernization is key to a more efficient government.
Of course he did.
Yeah, I mean, it's his thing.
Right.
But it sounds good on paper.
It does.
Who doesn't want a more efficient government?
Right.
But how do you actually define efficiency?
That's the question.
Is it just about doing things faster and cheaper?
Right.
Or is it also about, like, achieving the desired outcome,
Mm-hmm.
providing quality services to the public?
Exactly, because if you lose talented people,
Especially in a field like tech.
yeah,
Are you really setting yourself up for long-term success?
I don't think so.
Or are you just creating more problems down the line
Probably. I think there's a real danger of focusing on the short-term gains.
instead of the long game?
Right. You might save money initially by cutting the workforce, but what happens when you need those skilled workers later on?
To fix something or implement some new technology.
Exactly. You can't just create expertise out of nowhere.
It's like you said earlier, trying to build a skyscraper without a construction crew.
Right. You might have the blueprints, but without the people to execute the plan.
It's just a piece of paper.
A very expensive piece of paper.
Right. So how do you reconcile this push for automation
Mm-hmm.
and efficiency with the need for a skilled workforce?
I think it's about balance.
Yeah.
It's not an either situation.
Eh.
We should absolutely be using technology to make government more efficient.
More responsive to people's needs.
Exactly. But we can't do that at the expense of the people who are actually making those systems work.
So it's not just about cutting jobs.
Yeah.
It's about investing in the right kind of talent.
Mm-hmm. The people who can connect technology and public service.
Right. Bridge that gap.
Totally. And that requires a shift in mindset.
Okay.
We need to recognize that investing in people is just as important as investing in technology.
Let's talk about the impact on government services.
Yeah, we touched on that earlier.
The article mentioned the IRS's direct file program.
Oh, yeah, the one where you can file your taxes online for free.
Right. That's a pretty important service.
Huge. A lot of people rely on that.
And that's just one example. There are tons of government services that rely on the work of these tech teams at GSA.
So many that we probably don't even think about.
Right. And more of these services are being delivered digitally.
Which means we're only going to need more skilled tech workers in the future.
Well, cutting those workers now seems,
That's short-sighted.
to say the least.
It raises the question of whose needs are actually being met here.
Yeah, is this really about serving the public?
Or is it about something else entirely?
Let's get back to GSA's official response.
Yeah, we talked about it briefly at the beginning.
But I think it's worth revisiting now that we've discussed all this.
Definitely. Their statement is very telling.
Can you remind us what they said?
Sure, GSA said they are committed to supporting the administration's initiatives to right-size the federal workforce
Right, Si.
and ensuring a respectful and dignified process.
Okay, let's break that down. Right-size the federal workforce. What does that even mean?
It's basically a nicer way of saying downsizing.
They're trying to make it sound less harsh.
Exactly. Like they're just making adjustments.
Finding the optimal size.
Right.
But optimal for whom?
That's the question, isn't it?
Is it optimal for the employees losing their jobs?
Probably not.
Is it optimal for the citizens who rely on those services?
Who knows?
It's unclear.
And that's part of the problem. By using this vague language, they can avoid actually taking responsibility.
For the human cost.
Right. And then there's that whole respectful and dignified process part.
Yeah, what about that?
It sounds nice in theory, but the
The thing is-
reality is quite different. We've heard from GSA employees that They feel like they're being treated like cogs in a machine.
Not valued members of a team.
Exactly.
So there's a disconnect between what GSA is saying and what's actually happening.
A big disconnect. And it goes back to that lack of transparency and communication.
Right. If they're really committed to a respectful and dignified process.
Then why aren't they being more upfront with their employees?
Why are supervisors being kept in the dark?
Why aren't they addressing the concerns of their workforce
It seems like they're more worried about how things look,
than about the people involved?
which ultimately is counterproductive
Totally. It creates distrust and resentment.
and demoralizes the very people they need to be innovative.
Exactly. So where does that leave us?
What's the takeaway for our listener?
I think the takeaway is that this isn't just about job cuts at GSA. This is a story about how we value expertise, how we think about government, and what kind of future we want to create.
It's happening everywhere, not just in government.
Across all industries.
We're all dealing with these questions about automation efficiency, the future of work.
And the choices we make today will have ripple effects for years to come. So it's important to stay informed, ask critical questions, and be part of these conversations.
About how we use technology to create a better future for everyone.
I completely agree. And this is an ongoing story. There are still so many unanswered questions about what these cuts will mean for the government, for the workforce, for the relationship between technology and democracy.
So stay tuned. This deep dive is far from over. You know, this whole thing, it's not just an American issue.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Governments all over the world.
They're facing the same challenges.
The rise of AI automation.
It's global.
It's making everyone rethink how they work.
How they govern, how they prepare for the future.
And there's no, easy answer.
No one size fits all.
What works in one country?
Might not work somewhere else.
Each country has its own context.
Political systems, economic conditions, cultural values.
It all affects how they deal with these new technologies.
So we can't just focus on the U.S.
Right. We need to see what other countries are doing.
What's working, what's not.
What lessons can we learn?
Exactly. Because the choices we make here
They affect other countries.
and their decisions affect us.
Like this global conversation.
A shared challenge.
We need to work together.
and learn from each other,
It's like we're all part of this big experiment.
trying to figure out this new world.
Just new technological landscape.
And that's what makes it so interesting.
Right.
The uncertainty, the complexity, the potential for good and bad.
It's a challenge.
It demands our attention,
Or critical thinking.
our willingness to talk about it.
So for our listener,
What's the big takeaway?
what should they be thinking about?
I think the takeaway is this. We're at a turning point. We have these amazing tools, these technologies, but we have to be careful how we use them.
Technology can be good or bad
It depends on us,
on our values.
on whose interests are being served.
It's not enough to just embrace technology.
We have to ask tough questions.
It's about its impact on society, on the workforce, on democracy,
We have to make sure technology benefits everyone.
not just a select few.
We need to think about the future we want.
Do we want technology to empower us,
Connect us.
help us solve problems,
Or do we want it to divide us,
displace us?
undermine our values?
These are big questions.
But we can't ignore them.
Our choices today will shape tomorrow.
So stay informed, stay curious, stay engaged. This isn't just about GSA, it's about the future of work, the future of government, the future of humanity. We're all in this together.
Well said. And on that note, I think it's time to wrap up this deep dive. Our brains are full. Lots to think about.
Absolutely. Complex issues, no easy answers. But by having these conversations, by
Yes.
challenging ourselves, by looking at things from different perspectives, we can start to find a way forward, a way to a better future.
And that's what the deep dive is all about. Thank you for joining us.
We hope you learned something.
Maybe even felt inspired.
Until next time, stay curious, stay engaged.
And remember, the future is ours to create.